I am so excited. This is like a super special moment for me because I am here with my son, my oldest son, who has a huge day ahead of him tomorrow. And we just wanted to snag this opportunity to sit down and talk about what's ahead of him. And so before we dive into that, I just want to introduce my son, my oldest son, Colin, to you, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Yep, as he said, oldest, 6 kids, I'm sure we've heard before. Colin, single dad, about to make a big step forward. As long as everything goes according to plan tomorrow, it'll be a good story, as most things have so far along the way. But I don't.
Yeah, so you're a single dad, so tell us about your family.
Yep, so it's just myself and my son. My son Cade, he's 5 years old now.
Yeah.
In kindergarten, starting along and growing up faster than I can imagine, and just an absolute joy to be around. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's been quite an adventure over the last handful of years, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's super cool because when you were born, I was like, you were my firstborn, and I was thinking, I think the first thing that hit me was like, oh my gosh, you look like me, which was so crazy because we haven't talked about this, but I was adopted at birth. So people that look like me were like, oh wow, this is really cool. How did it hit you when your son was born?
So finding out that we were about to have him was a big deal. I was in the midst of trying to make a lot of changes and get a lot of stuff going, and but finally realizing I was actually an adult, despite being in my early 20s. And so thankfully I had a lot of stuff already planned out. So there was some hope in terms of what the future looked like. It's like, all right, I'll be able to provide for a family. I'm going to be able to take care of what I need to. But it was just another layer on top of moving out, on top of trying to start a relationship, on top of all these things, to where, all right, here's one more massive piece of a puzzle that I now have to figure out.
Right.
Going from struggling to take care of myself growing up, I've now got somebody that I'm immediately responsible for that absolutely needs all the help, care, love, and attention in the world, and trying to figure out where is that going to come from, and how am I going to provide all that without screwing that up. So
yeah, interesting. Yeah, it forces you to think beyond yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Cool. What do you think, this is really a super unfair question, but like, what have you learned from being, either single or married and then having a child? Like, what are the big leaps there that you feel like you've gone through? And I'm speaking specifically like to encourage somebody that's either going through these things, right, and they're like, where does this go? Or they're contemplating this.
Right. Yeah, one of the phrases that comes to mind is specifically around, God. God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And it's one of those things where I don't think there's any way, and I'm sure it's been parroted many times before, that you're never going to be ready when it happens. It's something you kind of have to figure out along the way. There's no book on how to prepare for it. There's all the suggestions of this might work, that might work, but yeah, as soon as everything starts happening and your child's actually there, everything goes out the window. It doesn't matter what you're doing or what you've done.
Here it is. It's like, deal with it.
Yeah, it's very much the deal of, all right, yeah, I've read it. Reading something in a book versus actually getting your hands on it and doing it.
Yeah.
From the mechanic field, there's where I come from. There's the way the book says to do it, and there's how we actually do it out in the field, and those are usually vastly separate things. So while you might have the kind of head-level knowledge of it, the actual practical application is usually different and so situationally specific that it's a lot of the times there's no real training you can do aside from figuring it out while you're there.
Right. Yeah. You've been you mentioned a little bit about your career, but why don't you talk about your career a little bit? And so what's that journey been like so people can relate?
So when that started out, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. Kind of went back and forth on a bunch of stuff. Tried going to college for a little bit and realized sitting down in a classroom, even when it was my idea, was not where I needed to be.
Even when it was my idea.
Yeah.
I love the way you said that.
There's definitely a different level of ownership of trying to begin a career either in physical therapy or in psychology, just given what I'd been through and what I was hoping to be able to stick with, and quickly realized that just a lot of that stuff I was not fitting. It didn't fit where I wanted to go. And through a bunch of trial and error, finding I very much enjoy working with my hands, doing things in that field. I ended up going to UTI,
which stands for what?
Universal Technical Institute. It's
Yep.
an automotive trade school.
Okay.
Got in there and got into a full-service Goodyear right around the corner that used to be there.
Yep.
And hopped into the automotive field, started turning wrenches, fell in love with it, had an amazing opportunity to get in with a forklift repair company, jumped in there with both feet, hit the ground running, and turned wrenches for about 6 years along the way.
So you followed completely in my footsteps.
Effectively.
No, I've...
No.
So we know I don't turn wrenches.
Yeah. No, but in the regard of going out and finding what worked and trying stuff and finding where the passions lied and where kind of I fit and going down that path, not doing kind of what the masses would say to do. Of not everybody's going to tell you, especially back kind of when you were going through a lot of your stuff, to go start a business, go try and do this, go try and do that. It was very much
well, go to college, do all those, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was in some we're vastly different fields of influence.
I can't fix anything, so I give it to Colin, and he fixes it.
Yeah, no, and even along the way with all that, I ended up picking up welding. So I was the welder for our branch for a couple of years as well before now stepping into a management role. So we're
making that leap.
Similar realms now, but
yeah, from fixing stuff to fixing people.
Yep. So it's been good.
Yeah, but I think you got to take that. Well, I look at it as we were talking about this the other day. It's like going from technical to management, which is actually people technical, but we don't think of it that way.
No, 100%. That's one of the things that I'd found too. And originally I was looking to try and get into the training field of the training side of our company.
Yeah.
Aside from the satisfaction I get from fixing something, taking this hunk of metal, fluids, wires, whatever, that doesn't work effectively, a massive paperweight, by the time I'm done with it, this running, working machine.
Yep.
It's incredibly satisfying. And the second closest thing I found to that was teaching somebody something along that realm and seeing that light bulb go off. And so I was like, all right, I know I can't turn wrenches for forever, put my body through enough stuff. It's not sustainable long term. Got something to think about. All right. So
you were picking up heavy stuff.
Yeah. Things are usually, we've got wheels for some of the lifts that are over 100 pounds by themselves. Yeah. So it's one of those things where child, you start thinking a lot more long term and starting to project out farther and farther. It's like, all right, well, what do I need to do?
Right.
And hoping for the training side of things, but when the opportunity that I have presented itself, realizing that kind of within management, I can start working with people, and it might not be specific job skills, but I can work with the guys on training up how to communicate with customers. So communication skills, time management, planning, all that kind of stuff. So there's still opportunities for me to help build the guys rather than build machines.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why I want to dive into this, but it just seems like it might be helpful because I think there's, I'm probably speaking for myself for sure, but there's, I think a lot of people are questioning the college path right now with college tuition the way it is. And you took this different path. And at what point did you realize you need to take that path, and how hard was it to take that path?
It was something that, with technical school, even going to UTI, I didn't even finish that. And it was one thing where I gave college a try. But thankfully, one of the skills that I've developed through growing up and going through years of counseling, of just becoming very self-aware of where I'm at, what's going on, and kind of how I'm doing and where I need to be headed, and realizing when things don't mesh and when I'm just walking into problems or I'm wasting time, and having spent enough time wasted trying to grow up and figure out where I'm going, what I'm doing, and all of that, it was far more pressing and important for me to be sure that I was heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I kind of started figuring out, it's real easy at the beginning to realize, okay, well, I don't want to be going this way. So going from
it's easier to know what I don't want to do than what I do want to do.
Exactly. And it's almost through process of elimination, realizing that the college way, I don't want to waste time. I'm not going to be wasting money. It's just ridiculously expensive already.
Yeah.
That's not where my time's best invested. Let me at least take a break, figure it out, give myself some space and some margin to actually figure out where I'm going to be going. Picked up a job stocking shelves for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of let life
At the grocery store.
Yep.
Yep.
Let life happen around me, and through a series of events, series of not lost, but broken used cars, being convinced that if I just knew anything,
I need to fix these things.
I could fix them.
So true.
It was that spark of like,
that's funny.
All right, let me try that. That piques my interest. I took stuff apart all the time growing up. Never could put much of it back together. But it's something where I kind of saw a trail of breadcrumbs along the way of me slowly getting into here.
Yeah.
And so through that, very much the mindset of, all right, I don't want to waste time. What's the most efficient way to get through it? So it was very much a stepping stone, even going to trade school. Once I got my foot in the door, I found a job where I had opportunities to be paid to go to training and paid to work and everything else. It's like, all right, well, I don't need to finish this. This was just to get my foot in the door.
Okay. Yeah.
From there, was totally fine stepping out. I can further my training while working in the field, getting experience, getting paid, and getting sent to training to go further my skills. Still had buddies at school at the time, which was how I ended up finding out about Crown and hopped on with them. It was presented. It about doubled my hourly wage. I got a van. I did it checked all the boxes and that was right as I was about to have Cade, finding out that we were pregnant with him and all that.
So that's when you launched out. You're like,
yeah,
okay,
it was
time to move out.
The time of everything was very much.
How old were you then?
Man, I'm going to have to math back now. I think I was about 24.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been with Brown for about 6 years. So I was about 23, 24.
23, 24. Yeah, very cool.
Yep.
Awesome. So we talk about dad mode. It's like going into dad mode. So you become a dad, and it's like there's no courses for that. It just happens.
Yep.
Right? And I talk about God, grit, and goals because to me, those are the three foundational things that you've suddenly need to recognize. It's like, God, I'm either a God or there's a higher authority. I have no clue what I'm doing. Grit, like life is hard. We're going to have to tough it up somewhere. And goals, to me, these are the motivational factors that move us forward. So how have those related to you since you've become a dad?
So the goals was definitely an easy one. You've got your dreams and hopes for your family, what that looks like, what you guys want to be capable of doing. You obviously want to be able to provide and take care of them. Dreams of moving into a house, getting out of an apartment, doing all that. Grit's been something I've been fairly well versed in, I feel like, just trying to get through and take care, do what I need to, and battling along the way. But yeah, used to putting my head down and having to go. And God was one of those that was very in and out throughout kind of my life. And it was about 4 years ago now where I stepped away for a long time and finally came back. And it was because of a whole situation with Cade and everything around there that finally brought me back, being completely broken down and getting put in a position where I had to acknowledge that there's no way I can do this by myself. If there's something higher, I need to see it because I'm at the end of myself right now. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good. Because you were raised in a Christian home, obviously. So that was our faith. And then I remember, and we've always talked about at some point you're going to own your faith. All right. And you did. Right. And you even wrote me a letter. Right. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Remember. I know you've talked about
totally remember that. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I still have the letter, but you said your God's not my God. And I get that. And I hugged you because like there comes a point in time where you have to own your own faith.
Yeah.
And then, and you did, and you continue to do so. And so I look at it as an ever evolving thing.
Yeah.
Not a good decision, bad decision, but it's a series of decisions that we make.
Right.
Right. And so you've made those series of decisions. So what was it that got you talked about hitting bottom. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, actually, even for myself. So like, what does that mean to you, hitting bottom?
probably the best way to describe it would be to go into kind of how we ended up getting Cade and that whole story a little bit. I don't know if you want to dive into that at all, or if we want
Yeah,
to do
well, that's totally up to you. We'll, we might do that in a different episode, but you can touch on some high points if you want.
Yeah. So kind of the gist of it is just
obviously you're a single dad, so there's something underneath this.
Ended up going through a fairly bad divorce and a lot of situations around that. But basically kind of rock bottom to me is being brought to a point where it doesn't feel like it matters what you do. It's not going to fix anything. Things are just to a catastrophic point to where there's no control that I have in any situation.
I can't fix it. Yeah,
exactly. Things are just so far gone that it's so far beyond my reach. I don't have the skills, abilities, knowledge, relationships to even get this stuff done.
Yeah. You entered the world of chaos, total chaos. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, to have the floor ripped out from under you and not even the ceiling become the floor now. It's somewhere off in another room.
Yeah, where am I now? Yeah, well, it rocks your world for sure. So what kind of hope or encouragement would you give somebody that maybe is facing that situation right now? Like they find themselves at the end of themselves, gone through a divorce, because you're about to embark on a whole new adventure where you're at. Yeah. So you can kind of look back at that and go, let's not forget.
Yeah. I've got to have some good conversations with a few buddies over the last couple of years around it, but it's very much when you're at the end of yourself, the only thing you can do is find something that's bigger than you and hold on to that. Something that's sturdy, steadfast, and basically unchangeable.
So we're talking sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
No, not quite. Okay. Very much. It really does kind of come down to some kind of religion. Big believer the right choice, if you will, is Christianity. Just with our beliefs.
Something deep.
Something deep. It's got to be something greater than yourself, because when you're at the end of yourself, you've run out of whatever that is. And so you need something that's bigger than you to hold on to orient yourself, because when your life gets flipped upside down, if you've got some lighthouse that's at least keeping you oriented of, all right, I don't see the light in my life right now. All the lights on my ship have gone out, but I know the coast is over there. I can see the light over there.
Oh, I love that analogy. Yeah. It's like there's an aim.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. And so walk me through that transformation for you. What has kind of transpired in the last couple of years that has gotten you to, because you're obviously in a far better place than you were.
Yeah. It comes down to a lot of just self-evaluation of looking and taking stock of, all right, what do I have? Where am I? No lying to myself, cut out all the fluff. Like when it comes down to brass tacks, what do I actually have? Where am I trying to go? What needs to be done to get there? And how can I use what I have to get there? So very much just, it's a lot of honesty with yourself. You can't make progress on just hopes and dreams alone. You've got to live in the reality of your current situation and acknowledge what's going on before you can step forward from that point.
That's really good. For whatever reason, what came to mind is like Google Maps. It's like the restaurant is at this address. Where are you?
Exactly.
Yeah, because I can't tell you how to get there until I know where you are. Right. Until you're honest with where you are at, then there are no directions that will help you.
Doesn't matter where the finish line is if you never dictate what the start line is.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that assessment. So what do you think are some steps that you went through to assess that?
One of the very first things that I was very intentional about doing was getting a good group of people around me. Just understanding the importance of community and being able to have people to speak life into you, but encourage you. And one of the things that I've found along the way as well that I didn't recognize or see at the time was the importance of having a good group of people. For me, it's a group of guys we've been meeting with almost 4 years now, that when you don't see things going well in your life, if you've got people around you or you're giving into their lives, they're pouring into yours, you get to see movement in their lives as well. And so while you might not see something immediately, you get to see progress around you still, and it helps keep the momentum going. Even if you feel like you're in a stagnant stage, you see the people around you still moving and still doing well, and they're carrying you with you.
Yeah.
And so
are these like your beer drinking buddies, or who are these guys?
no, this is a circle that I have a bunch of guys through church. It's not just about getting people around you, it's getting the right people around you, the people who can be honest with you and call you out when you're doing something stupid, who can call you up when they see you not doing what you need to be doing, when you're slacking off. But the guys who are going to remind you of the good, the promises of, for me, what God says when I can't see it or I've got a skewed perspective on something. It's the guys who can help remind you and help direct you back to the lighthouse when you turn around and you're looking the other way.
Right,
Or
yeah.
the waves start getting in your way, whatever it might be. So it's very much Bible verse of man by himself is weak, but a cord of three strands is not easily broken.
Yeah.
It's the idea of you're stronger together when you're with people headed the same direction.
Awesome. Well, this is a great opportunity right now for a shout out to any of these guys that have been in your life that you feel like have fed into you. So
yeah, definitely. Eric Summerhauser was the guy who started our circle, one of the first guys that I met, and who's called me up into a few serving positions. Almost felt like being voluntold at the time, but it was exactly where I needed to be to get involved with serving at our church and the greeter team and pushing me outside of myself. He definitely saw something and called me up into that, and it's been an amazing journey ever since then. He helped kind of kickstart that.
Awesome.
Jeremy Baus was another great guy I've got to spend a lot of time with and has spoken a lot of life into me. The circle was handed off to John Little, who's led it over the past couple of years now, and absolutely amazing guy. I love him to death, and he's started his own podcast. He's done a bunch of stuff, but just always a positive influence, always a light, always extremely encouraging, and he's done similar things for me and given me opportunities to step up, and I've gotten to help him lead the circle a couple times, and once a month while he's got other engagements, but everybody in there,
Yeah.
Drew, John.
It's so important to have these
Yeah.
relationships, right?
Yeah.
And figuring out where do we find these people? How does this come about? Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about Eric because and like I've known you obviously your whole life, so you're not an extrovert.
Not at all.
Right.
And so, yeah, extremely introverted. And so he asked me to join the door greeter team at Valley Creek.
Which is like the most
to.
extroverted position you can have.
Yeah, I go from being
Talk
the
to
guy
strangers all the time.
sitting in the back of the worship center to now being literally posted up at the front doors saying hello to every single person that walks in. It was a drastic difference. And it's funny talking to a lot of people on that team. It was a team that I ended up, after a while, stepping up and leading too. But to talk to them about the transformation they saw just in me and that. And one of the things that I shared with them that they all thought was absolutely hilarious was we ended up, the way that the entrance was all set up, I ended up putting myself towards the back doors. We have, once the worship starts, we close the back two sets of doors, and we call it the zigzag. You go in one.
Oh, yeah, the dark part of
Yeah, and we got the other. And so I would put myself in there.
The darkest part.
The darkest part, because I needed to stop, and so people couldn't see me, because my face hurt from smiling, even for 10, 15 minutes, because that was not something
I'm
my
so
face
unused to
normally
smiling.
did.
Yeah, that's funny.
And so I put myself in there so I could let my face rest.
That's funny. Well, it's interesting because I think all of the guys you talked about are all family men.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the other guys who's been in the circle lately, Tony, and his buddy Brian, the two of them. And Tony's been very much, I've gotten to watch him walk through the last couple seasons of life and putting together his family, stepping into this relationship and just watching him grow. He's been one of the big guys who we've gotten to see take a lot of strides, and he's walking about a season ahead of me right now for what life holds and where we're at. But yeah, just it's been absolutely amazing just what that circle's brought, what it's done for me, and just the foundation that that's helped build.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think one of the things that's helped me, and I'm hearing you say this, is well, you get married, you have a child, and it's you and your wife, right? But that's a woman. Like,
Yeah.
I have my own issues. You need other guys around you, and not just any guy, because we've all had guy friends growing up, and most of them get us in trouble.
Yeah.
Honestly, the best ones.
Yep.
Like I'm always they're the most fun.
Oh yeah, the ones you have the most stories with are usually the ones.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now I'm a parent. Like, okay, I'm living beyond myself now, so I have to like behave.
Yep.
But it's, to me, I think the biggest change now later in my life is it's not behave. It's just a different type of adventure. Like
Right.
I'm going on this new adventure, and you need Sherpas. You need people that can help you climb that mountain. And if they don't have a family, they're probably not equipped.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of the other things that I've gotten to see over and over again is just how a lot of the stuff that people have gone through allow them to speak into other people's lives that somebody else might have no ability to relate to in any capacity, but because they've walked down a similar road, not even the same road, but just something different, they can relate in a way that somebody else who's not experienced anything in that realm of life can talk into.
Right.
And so surrounding yourself with not just one or two guys, but as many as you can that you can still sustain a healthy relationship with and truly have your best interest at heart. That's the biggest thing.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to turn corners here a little bit.
Yep.
So we've talked about those things, and now I want to actually kind of shift gears because you went through a divorce. You had to move back home. You've got a child now. So this is a totally different situation. And, well, we've had to figure things out. You and I have had to figure things out.
Yep.
It's like, so I'll give you my perspective right off the cuff here. It's like, there's a hole where a mother should be. And my wife, your mom, fills that hole. And thank God, because she's awesome. But you're the dad. I'm not the dad. So I've got to step back, let you do your thing. This is completely my perspective, right? You've got your own perspective on this.
Yeah.
I'm sure this was a challenge. It's not like I have a goal to move back home.
Exactly.
Right? So let's talk through that. Like what was going through your head as you were having to go through all this?
A lot of pride had to be swallowed. Get to that point of having to admit of my life as I saw it and was trying to build is completely gone now and ripped out from under me very rapidly, and understanding that stability is going to be the most important thing, and knowing that that would be more than provided for with you guys. It wasn't in any stretch what I wanted to do. I was trying to figure out how to make it on my own, what I could do, how to afford another place, all these things. But having to put aside my pride and focus on what was going to be best for Cade and what that looked like. One of the biggest fears that I had was starting to go through all that, doing what I do, starting to dive into it and look up the statistics on single-parent homes and all these things.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And just the dangers of mixed families down the road and the percentage of abuse for step-parents and just all the things. And
so you were checking all that out. Oh, wow. Yeah.
In any way positive.
Yeah.
And so having a strong female figure in my son's life was something that I was very, very mindful of, and kind of all the boxes that I was trying to check here, checked all of them, not just mom, but all three of my sisters, having them in the area. Like there was no shortage of positive female role models that would be absolutely loving, adoring, and pouring into my son. And it was one of the biggest things because I know how much he needs that, and I get to see the benefits of setting aside my pride and coming back because of everything that they've done for him.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And that had to be usually a hard thing to go through, but not a hard decision.
Exactly. Yeah. It was very clearly the right thing to do.
Right. And you were in a unique situation because I think most people that are single dads are splitting custody or having to deal with all that, and you have full custody.
Yeah, it's become its own interesting situation to walk through, and one of those things where a lot of the buddies that I've had 2 or 3 guys specifically that come to mind who have walked through or are walking through a similar situation where I just can't relate to some of the things that they're dealing with because I've got full custody, and mom, for all intents and purposes, just
It eliminates some challenges.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those things that a lot of people have to deal with, as just has not in any way, shape, or form come up.
Yeah. All right. Well, so let's talk about you were married, then you're not.
Yep.
For me, I would be the loneliest man alive. I don't know what this has done for you. So walk me through that.
Yeah. Trying to find community was definitely one of the big driving factors around that, understanding how poorly I do when left alone, despite being an introvert. I can only isolate so much before it becomes detrimental.
Yeah, one close relationship is different than 100 random
Exactly.
people, right? Yeah.
So, it's definitely realized that I needed to give myself the time and space to heal from it. If there was ever not just a hope of, well, if there was a hope of finding somebody else in the future, obviously that would be the goal. But even if I didn't, understanding mentally, I needed to make sure that I healed from it, and understanding that I need to be as mentally healthy as I can be so that I can properly take care of Cade as best as I can.
Right.
I can't do that if I'm constantly fighting trauma, rejecting things, pushing it back, not dealing with it, any of that.
Yep.
Very quickly, as a parent, you realize how much your kids watch, as I know you guys have got to see.
Yeah.
And even on the smallest things. And so realizing that I really do need to live by example, and what example do I want to set for him? And
yeah, much more is caught than taught.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was very intentional of like, okay, I want to, let's use a terrible situation and try and find the silver lining, try and find the good in it. So, all right, I can use this to show him what it looks like to persevere, to find godly relationships, to work on acknowledging hurt, pain, trauma, and actually facing it and dealing with it, not just suppressing it and pushing it down, not letting it be something that comes back up and ends up being taken out on the people around you because you didn't choose to deal with it, kind of situation.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I was just thinking about this when you were talking, but like, I remember my parents coming into town, and I always liked that. But then they begin to give you advice and stuff like that. And so it's like, oh, they're watching me. And you're living like that. Like your parents are with you all the time. That's got to be kind of rough.
It's really not been that bad, I have to admit.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that they talked about at church was you've got more in common with another believer across the room than you do with your closest non-believing relative, friend, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing kind of lesson and implementation of that. There's very little that I felt like I've had to parent around you guys or do anything with. There's so much in alignment, from kind of family values to beliefs to whatever it might be, that it doesn't feel like I'm having.
That's interesting. So if we're operating from the same set of rules and values, it's easier.
Not even rules, but just values. If you're both headed the same direction, the way you might aim at those would be a little different, but at the end of the day, you're still aiming at the same thing.
Right.
And I very much appreciate you guys as well, because you have done a lot of not interjecting yourselves a lot. There's a lot of like, all right, listen to dad.
You're in charge.
Let your hands off. Yeah. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, he's still a grandson. You can give him back at the end of the day. You
Right.
don't have to deal with him.
Right. Here, have some more candy.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, it's been really good, and I'm eternally grateful and beyond thankful that everything's kind of gone the way it has, and it's been an absolute blessing. There's been.
All right. Well, we told everybody at the beginning of this, like, tomorrow's a big day.
Yeah.
I talked about being lonely. You've met somebody. So walk us through that. Yeah. And where are we? Where did we start, and where are we today, and how long was that?
Yeah, so it took about 2 years. Very intentional, focus on myself, try and figure things out, deal with what I needed to. And after a while, it was one of those things of starting to be lonely, in just that different sense of, it's nice to have good friends, but from going from being married to having somebody you're pouring into to not having that, there's a very large gap. And while it wasn't perfect by any stretch, seeing how much more of life there is to experience with somebody else left a very big hole. And despite being fairly pessimistic, was a hole that I was very hopeful would be filled again, that I would be able to find. And have, I believe, found something that is going to fill that in just exponentially more than it was before, just with how the relationship's been built, everything that's gone on there. But before even getting to that point, after a while trying to figure out, all right, what can I do to do that? What's everything going on nowadays? What's it look like to meet somebody? Single dad, so going out every other night is not exactly feasible. I've got a full-time job. I've got all these responsibilities.
We wouldn't put up with you going to a bar every night.
Exactly. And realizing that this time around has very much been, okay, that didn't work, so let's do things differently.
Right.
The definition of insanity is something I've heard over and over, and doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. You get burned that bad, you very quickly don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Well, most of my life, not making the same mistake twice, making it 5 or 6 times just to be sure. This is not one of those that I wanted to do.
We need to be fishing in different ponds now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where, all right, well, let me at least try some of the dating apps, hop on there. I hopped on a couple of those. I did that for a couple months, and talking to buddies from church who used those and everything, and have found some good girls. I didn't get a single match over 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And
so you're like,
apparently
nobody's swiping left on me or whatever it is?
Or the people that would.
You weren't interested in.
Anyway. Yeah. I had a couple friends help me try and build profiles and do this. A couple girls give me some input, and nothing ever matched. But it was I finally kind of threw them away. I was like, all right, I'm done. At least I figured out through this, like, okay, I'm in a point where I could handle being in a relationship. Like, I'm ready to experience that. I've done the healing that I need to get myself where, okay, I'm in a place where I can move forward, and accepted that. And like I said before, serving at church, and girl there, Lauren, who we were aware of each other. We knew each other. We served on different teams. While the service was going on, we would all get together in a huddle. So I'd see her from time to time, but we never really had any real one-on-one interactions.
Yeah, she was someone from afar.
Exactly.
I see you, tall blonde.
Yep. Got to the point where I got so fed up with the dating apps and everything. I'd talked about it with my circle, gone through them. They'd been praying everything. I finally, one Wednesday night, said, you know what, I'm done with these things. Like, I'm just deleting them. I'm getting off of them. I'm not dating anybody till I'm fully set. I'm established. I've got a house for Kate and I. We're all good. He's in school. All these boxes are checked. Like, all right, I can handle it, so let me focus on life and where I want to be heading, and I'll deal with that
build
later.
my life. Yeah.
And I believe it was, I truly believe it was that next night where I sent something out into the group me that both our serve teams had together, and Lauren reached out and started talking to me, just reaching out, hey, I'm praying for you. I know you had mentioned this, and I've been through whatever it was, and started talking that way. So I just kind of started talking, but I had put that out of the realm of possibility, so that wasn't even on my radar of anything. We even grabbed dinner, lunch after church 3-4 times, and come to find out, she was very interested in me and thought I had completely friend-zoned her. And I was just completely oblivious to anything going on because that was not my focus.
Yeah, you were fixing yourself. Yeah.
And somebody I could have good
somehow that's attractive.
With. Yeah. Someone I could have good conversation with. It was just fun to be around, and knowing she was from church, it was just amazing to spend time with, and just that positivity and just the warmth. And we ended up going to dinner one night, and then she had been telling me about this life application study Bible that she had received from her grandmother. It was her grandmother's Bible. She would always talk to me about the commentary in there. I was like, all right, well, bring it to dinner. We'll come back and we'll take a look at it. And so we went out to ramen place up the road and came back here after dinner and spent some time kind of going through. She was showing me a lot of the commentary, and it was really,
from
really
her
cool.
grandmother.
From her grandmother's
That's
Bible.
cool. Yeah.
And I think it was the 4th time that we had dinner together, or some meal. And I walked her out to her car afterwards, and we ended up just kind of standing there for a minute, and it was standing there looking at her. And
the eyes met.
Yeah, very much. I was like, oh, crap. I feel something. There's something here.
I need to make a move. Yeah.
And said goodnight, got her in her car, and she left. And
I'm like, what is wrong with me?
I believe it was Wednesday. Well, it was still very much like, it was the light bulb clicked of like, oh no, there's something here. Not what's wrong with me. Like, I need to figure out what this is and what's going on.
Oh, wow, that's
let
funny.
me get the gears turned back towards a relationship. And okay.
Yeah, you were so out of it that
yeah,
didn't even register.
all those lights have been turned off in that room. It was not something that was in the realm of possibility.
All the lights were turned off in that room. That's funny.
And so after kind of realizing it, praying about it, that was on a Wednesday. That Sunday, I asked her out at church and invited her over to dinner that night. And
which is nuts.
One of the fun things about being almost 30, going through a relationship after being divorced, was you very quickly don't like playing games. And I was very intentional about like, all right, this is going to be for marriage. This is going to work or it's going to not work. And I want to find out as soon as possible. So
wow, yeah. So you were
like,
it was an interview.
Yeah. I asked her out. She said yes. I said, cool. Would you like to come over to dinner? She had been made aware of it before. But dinner was with the entire family, with all the siblings, significant others.
And you have 5 siblings, yeah.
Very much a trial by fire.
And some are very sarcastic.
Yes.
There will be an interview
Most
process
of us
here.
are very sarcastic. And,
That's funny.
She said yes. She came. She hung out like a champ, and
she did.
Got along with everybody, and had some conversations with her after that. She went home and basically ranted to her mother about it, and said, "There's no way he didn't feel anything." And like, I'll have to have her tell the story at some point.
Oh, that's funny.
But no, she was convinced.
Like it was
I didn't feel anything.
It was a real deal.
He's got to be friend zoning me, and she was convinced that I was intentionally stepping away. And so her mom.
That's funny.
Was very much like
even after that.
If he does, yeah. And so Sunday when I finally asked her out at church. Everything kind of came together, and we can laugh about it all now.
That's funny. All right.
But
so what's happening tomorrow?
So tomorrow, I'm going to be asking her to marry me.
Whoa. So yeah.
It's been quite an adventure. It's been something amazing. That's for sure.
Yeah. Walk us through, like, okay, when did you decide this is what I want to do? And what was going on at that point?
Yeah. So it's something that we've talked about for a little while, and something that was addressed honestly towards the very beginning of the relationship as well.
So she was as serious as you, it seems like.
Yeah. She had been previously engaged. It was very short, the whole other deal. But both of us, she's a couple years older than I am, very much in similar stages of life, and very much looking to date to marry. It's not something we're wanting to waste time and have flings or do any of this stuff. We've
all dated.
Very intentional. Like, all right, we're past the point of having fun and just being dumb. Like, all right, let's be intentional about this. Let's do this with a purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just a mindless summer fling or anything. One of the big benefits of having known her previously, it was funny the way it all happened. As I was looking through things, I was very hesitant to backtrack a little, get on any of the dating apps, because having to start from scratch, having to do all these things, having to have the conversation of, hey, I know you like me, but by the way, there's a mini me that is a package.
Yeah, when do I bring that up?
How to have that. So it was always helpful I would find somebody through church, that would find somebody that I knew before and had a friendship with, and at least developed and had something that built up into what this has become.
Yeah.
I didn't have to have all those awkward conversations. She knew what she was getting into to start out with. She knew I had kids. She knew where I was in life. She'd heard some of my story through talking at church and going through our little huddle.
All before the group me.
I'll
pray for you.
Yeah.
She knew all that. Yeah.
And so she very much walked in, kind of eyes open to who I was, what I was bringing to the table, where I was at in life, and kind of what the goals were. So it was something where we knew from the beginning, hey, this is
so you guys had serious conversations from the get-go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Once I figured out what was happening, very intentional about trying to take those
They're
next
like,
steps
okay, yeah.
Hammer it out, because apparently I still didn't even ask her out in a way that left her confident that we were actually dating.
That sounds like how I married your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't know I actually asked her.
Yeah, so the goal, and that's a story I've heard as well, so the goal is to make sure she actually knows.
She knows.
That, hey,
yeah, well, that's the best, because I think you're like me in that we don't like rejection, so we just go with the assumption. That's funny. Awesome. So by the time this is published, it'll be out. But what's the plan here?
So, been very intentional about this relationship. Like I said, doing things very differently than last time. This being a very Christ-centered and focused relationship. We've met at church. I asked her out at church. We've done everything we can to build with God as the foundation for our relationship. Just understanding the importance of it, what it means, and just how it's changed our lives, and the progress that we've gotten to see in each other over the last year, over a year now, of just growing together and focusing on Him and building on that.
Yeah. What I'm going to stop you just for 1 second, because I think this is really important. Why is it important to have God as the center of a marriage relationship, in your opinion?
It kind of goes back to the whole deal is when I was talking about getting to the end of yourself. Like, you need something bigger than yourself. We are very fickle, fragile creatures. We need something that's bigger than ourselves, that we're aiming at, that we're leaning on, that is going to provide what we need when we don't have it ourselves.
Right.
Comes back to kind of even what I was talking about with not having to parent around you guys. Like, we're both headed the same direction. We both have the same, not just kind of goals, but vision, same I guess principles. I can't think of the exact word.
Yeah, values, principles.
Values. Yeah. Need alignment and something that's bigger than you, something that's more important than how do I feel right now.
Yeah, that's really good. And I want to circle back, but I'm going to speak back what you just said, because to me, these have been really important things. The reason, as I've heard you say it, is something bigger than yourself. And so when you're in a relationship with somebody and there's something bigger than you, then you can go to the bigger thing. If it's just me and you, then I've got to go to you.
Right.
Right? And so there's a lot of pressure when I'm saying, you fix it. And you're saying back to me, no, you fix it. Right? Or I'm right. No, I'm right. And when we go, there's a bigger thing, we'll go, well, let's just ask the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so it relieves this tension that exists in any relationship, and there's a higher authority, because I'm not king.
Yeah. The kind of analogy that's coming to mind is it's like being on, I use hockey since that's what I played, but being on a hockey team. You can go from being two players trying to lead the team by yourselves to giving the team a coach.
Okay, yeah.
So instead of two captains trying to fight how we think we should lead the team, you're going to be in unity sometimes.
Then it's like,
yep. So, all right.
Hold on.
We're not the ones leading this. All right, let's ask God. Let's ask the coach. Where do we need to be headed? What do we need to do?
Yeah, great example. All right, so higher authority, godly relationship. You guys met at church. You've been serving together. So you've kind of reached this point where you've had these serious conversations, and finally it's like time to make a decision. So what was the tipping point where, like, okay, this is the one. Time to move on.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I can't really think of a specific moment where it really clicked. It's been very much a gradual progression, but some of the biggest moments has honestly just been seeing her interact with Cade and the way he talks about her and the way he sees her and views her, and just the way that it feels when we're together. As cheesy as it might be, just being able to lay down after going to dinner and just watching a movie and just enjoying being together, just the peace that's there.
Yeah.
There's something that I hadn't felt previously.
Yeah. So it's more than, because now it's more than you and her.
Yeah.
There's this third dude in the middle.
So one of the big ones was very much taking you to drop you off at Charles's studio because you guys were going to go play hockey and we were going to go meet Lauren for dinner after.
Yeah.
And Cade, just with all the confidence of, I think he was 4 at the time. Yeah, he would have been 4. Just all the confidence of the world of a 4-year-old, told you that we were going to go drop you off at Uncle Charles's house, and then we were going to go pick up our girlfriend and take her to dinner.
Yeah, our girlfriend.
And just
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah,
That's awesome. Out of the mouths of the babes.
Yep. No, he absolutely adores her, and she absolutely loves him to death. It's so cute watching them together. I've got just so many pictures of the two of them, just happy as can be.
Yeah.
Seeing her, and that was kind of, as we talked about earlier, intentional conversations. That was one of the things that we talked about a couple months ago was, would you want to adopt him? And what that would mean. And
Yeah.
I know we're going to be married.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
Is this something? And she told me she was so happy that I asked. That's something that she'd been thinking about and was hoping that she
you would
have the chance to do. That
give her the opportunity.
I would ask.
Yeah. That's cool.
And so just seeing the full acceptance of not just me, or of me and everything that came with it.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of these conversations.
Yeah.
And everything's kind of lining up.
And I think that'd be my biggest kind of point to make on it, is the importance of being intentional with it from every step. As poorly as I've executed them, from asking her out to having conversations, you need to have very intentional conversations of keeping, all right, where are we going? What are we doing? What's the purpose? Having a purpose behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
And just being honest about it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because what you say is poor is also protective, right? And I think that's attractive.
Right.
Because I'm not sure, because my family is very important to me.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not going to rock this boat for a casual thing.
Right.
If you want to be a vital part of this thing, then I'm interested. If you don't, I'm not interested.
Definitely.
That's so mature. It's and that's putting family first. I think that's the biggest leap. I think it's weird. This is why I'm centering on dads, because I think you can get married and be super selfish.
Definitely.
But you can't be a dad and be super selfish. It just rips all of that apart. It's like, because you're responsible, right? Just a whole other level. I don't know if you felt that, but
yeah,
that's the way I feel.
It's a very, very different experience.
Yeah. And
feeling like you're a generous and selfless person, something entirely different altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. And cool. So what's the game plan here?
So, yeah, kind of as I was saying earlier, everything has revolved around the church. All the major steps we've taken have kind of been within the church.
Yeah.
And so I talked to our campus pastor, got approval. I'm actually going to ask her to marry me in the church.
Tomorrow.
So.
Ha. And I know about it.
She'll have, she'll have found out by now.
Yeah.
I totally forgot what I was going to say now. But
we talked to the campus pastor,
yep.
And you kind of got things lined out. So,
this was originally supposed to be a dinner plan, but she had forgotten to tell me about a Friendsgiving that she has coming up. We're in November right now. And so I had to scramble and make this a lunch thing after trying to convince her, hopefully I did, that no, I didn't have any big plans set up. I just wanted to go to this restaurant that I've been trying to ask you.
And so now everybody's scrambling to adjust the time frame.
Yeah. So, but no, it's good. So we're going.
Hopefully we pull it off.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, no, I'll be taking her out to lunch to the very first place we ever went and got lunch together.
Yeah.
And so it actually works out a little bit better that way. So we're having lunch, the first place we ever had lunch.
Yeah.
Mom works for the church, and so we're using that as a guise to get in the church. She helps set up the green room before services, and so I'm going to have her call me from your phone just saying, hey, I was setting up the green room with Cade. I think I left my phone there. Can you guys just swing by and check on the way back?
Yeah.
Because we're going to have to drive right past it and bring her in there. I've asked my sister Tina to help get a video together for me. I've got basically a big slideshow of a bunch of pictures from us over the span of our relationship put to our song.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get her out onto the main stage. We've got a TV that we're setting up, and we're going to have that start playing when we walk out. Some roses.
So you're going to take her from the green room tell her,
say,
let's go out on the stage? What?
Yeah, so she's got to set up. Mom has to set up some stuff in the green room,
Yep.
and then the campus pastors have a couple little trays under their seats with some water and stuff for the speakers. And so, say, hey, my phone I think I left in the green room. If it's not, it's on the edge of the stage where I was setting up that.
Okay.
And so, it's not in the green room. All right, let's go check the stage then. And we'll
Come
walk
out to the stage, and we're in the audience.
have a TV. Most people, hopefully everybody will be hiding off kind of on one side and having my brother-in-law
Both sides of the family, yeah.
help and take pictures. But yeah, her mom and stepdad and grandfather, you guys.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So we'll have a few people there to
All of us.
when she says yes. I'm praying. I'm fairly confident in that.
Yeah.
Considering we've got
No pressure.
her mom's ring. No, it's like I said, it's been very intentional. I know she's been hoping it would become sooner than later, so praying that this will actually be a surprise. And just the way everything's kind of gone out, I believe it's going to be. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, by the time we put this up, maybe we'll have some photographs that we can include. Cool. Yeah. She's an amazing young lady, and I'm super happy for you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, exciting times. So what hope do you give? What hope can you give to other single dads out there? What kind of comes to mind for you?
Just keep making sure that you're doing the right things and you're heading the way you want to be going. If you do what you know is right, good things are going to continue to happen. Keep making progress no matter what it feels like you're dealing with or going through. Blame my son for Frozen 2, but just keep doing the next right thing.
The next right thing. Unfrozen. Yeah, there you go. Just do the next right thing.
So, I mean, it really is.
Some good advice.
It really is. And don't let the frustrations of where you're at keep you from making the right decisions that you know are going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah. That's good. Great advice. Well, I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. And I love you.
I appreciate it. Love you too.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you guys for listening in. And just want you to know we love you too. And remember, God is good. Jesus has forgiven me. I'm loved, and everything is possible. All right. See you, man.